Let me know if you can hear me. Whew. It's been a busier day than I wanted it to be, that's for sure. I am in Panama, back in Panama. What's an internet tardy? Yeah, I am a little tardy. Sorry, I was on an important phone call, and I was trying to get off the phone, but I wasn't getting the hint. Just kidding. So let's see. Do you guys hear that dog? Oh my goodness. Sounds like there's somebody murdering a dog with an axe over there. And that's what happens when you do these outside. So I wanted to do a live about how we can stop illegal migration. I've been talking about this a lot over the past few days, especially because I've been in Eagle Pass, Texas, right down on the border, dealing with the trucker convoy, or the Take Our Border Back convoy. And so obviously this is a hot topic for the election. Whoa, trying to set this up here where I can sit comfortably. It's a hot topic for the election. It's a hot topic for a lot of reasons. And of course, it's one of the big things that I've been reporting on, for quite a while. So, yeah, if I go back to the first time that I went down to the U.S. southern border to report on this issue, that was like 2007, maybe. And okay, I'm gonna have to fix this. This is causing me problems here. That was like 2007, and it was a problem then, and it's a problem now. It's still a problem, but it just keeps getting worse. And if you want to know why it keeps getting worse, I would say it's because the government keeps trying to fix it. And as you probably know and would agree, if the government is good at anything, it's messing stuff up, making a mess. The government, let's just go through some of the things that the government has tried to do. Bonjour, monsieur, comment allez-vous? Has anyone ever tried turning the Wi-Fi feature off to Biden's brain? Okay, let's go through some of the things that they've tried to do to put a stop to this. They have built fences, built bigger fences. They have added more Border Patrol agents. They have sent the National Guard to the border. They have put up cameras, all sorts of technical things, and the problem keeps getting worse. Why is that? Well, it's not because those, thank you very much, Sue. It's not because those things don't work when it comes to actually slowing or stopping the border. It never fails. It never fails. When I do a live and backup guy shows up, even in Panama. The backup guy, beeper guy, shows up once again. There he is. And he's going to back up for the next 20 minutes. Almost guarantee it. So you guys remember beeper guy. It's not that the things that we're doing to try to deter illegal migration are not effective. It is that we have not addressed the root causes of illegal migration. And there are two reasons that people are flooding across our southern border. You've heard me talk about these two things before. Number one is the push factors, what pushes them out of the country they're in, that they're fleeing from. And the pull factor, what it is that pulls people into the United States, as opposed to them going to, Jamaica or somewhere else, right? Trinidad and Tobago. Why are they coming to the United States? Now, the push factors are not as big, they're not as important, because there will always be push factors that motivate people to want to leave their homes. There will always be war, poverty, natural disaster, whatever, crime, that make people go, you know what? I don't want to live here anymore, and I want to go. I mean, we've got that within the United States. People are leaving California in droves and moving to Texas. People are leaving Chicago and New York because of taxes, and moving down to Florida where the taxes are lower and it's warmer. Winter, is a push factor. That's one of the big reasons why my wife and I moved to Panama, because she doesn't like winter at all. And so, I mean, this is as winter as it gets down here. This is our winter. It's about 78 or 80 degrees and sunny today. No wind at all, so it is kind of muggy, because usually we have a breeze this time of year. But yeah, we left. My wife's from Wisconsin. The winter was definitely a push factor for us. So wanting to leave the place you live and go live somewhere else, there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think we should try to stop people from wanting to go find a better life. Everybody should have a right to go live where they want to live. But we should put processes in place to let them do so legally, safely. We shouldn't need to put gigantic barriers up. But part of the reason that we are having to put gigantic barriers up is literally because we have made the legal pathways to entry to the United States so tremendously difficult. After 9/11, it got way more unfriendly for people who wanted to come to the United States just to go to Disneyland, or just to go shopping, or take a vacation. It became very, very difficult for people from all over the world to get a visa to come to the United States. The way the process goes, like if you're from Panama here and you want to go visit a relative in the U.S. or go to a wedding or something like that, what you have to do is you have to set up an appointment at the embassy, in-person appointment. And since COVID, they made that virtual in some cases, but I think now it's back to in-person appointments. I might be wrong about that. You have to pay $160, last I knew, to get your appointment. And then you have to go in and you have to basically prove to them that you have no need to go to the United States before they will give you a visa to go to the United States. So you have to show them that you have a job in Panama, you have a house in Panama or some property to come back to, you have family here, you have money in your bank account, and enough money to stay in America for as long as you plan to stay, et cetera, et cetera. And if you are a young person, and let's say you don't own your house, which many people don't, or at least it would be hard for them to prove ownership, because the way that it works here is, people get it from their families or whatever. And let's say that you are working here but don't have like a professional job. You're just I don't know, you're a delivery man or a driver or a yard worker or something like that. If you're not an engineer or a doctor or something like that, it's going to be virtually impossible for you to get approved for a visa to go to the United States. So I know people that they actually did have a job. He was a flight attendant, or no, I'm sorry, not a flight attendant. He worked at an airline, but wasn't a flight attendant. He wasn't married. He was in his mid-20s. His family, he lived in a family compound, so his family owned the property, not him personally. So he paid his $160, and he went to the window up there, and they said, "I'm sorry, you didn't get your visa." He said he brought all kinds of paperwork to prove to them that he would come back. Everything, all kinds of stuff, letters, a letter from me, all kinds of stuff, and they didn't even look at any of his paperwork. They just, as soon as he got to the window, they said, "No, you didn't get your visa." He's like, "So what did I pay $160 for?" And it turned out that $160 is basically a lottery ticket. And they have a certain number of visas that they will grant for Panamanians. And he didn't make it. So he just was automatically disqualified, but they kept his $160. And so if he wants to do it again, we did it again. This time we paid another $160, or he paid the $160, and got more information together, filled out the forms. Everything showed up there again, and again they just said, "Sorry, you didn't make it." So how can the U.S. stop funding migration? Well, that's what I'm getting to, Rap. So keep listening. There's beeper guy again. It just never fails. It's amazing. I just have this incredible power over the universe to make that guy appear by just going live on YouTube. It's incredible. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button just for beeper guy over there. So this guy went a second time, paid his $160, and again, they just turned him around and denied him before. So I actually went with him that time, and I went up to the window and said, "Wait a minute, explain to me what's going on here." And they said, "No, we won't talk to you. We'll only talk to him." I said, "Well, I'm sponsoring him. I'm helping." And they said, "No, we won't talk to you." And I got kind of exercised, and to the point where they were about to call security on me. And I was about to be banned from ever coming to the embassy again here in Panama. So I figured I should probably turn around and leave. Later on, I ran into a lady who worked at the embassy that went to a church that I attended in Panama City one time. And I got talking to her, and I told her this story, and she said, "Oh," she said, they make the decision before you even show up. All that paperwork is just for show. If you're not basically able to prove to them that you have no need of ever coming to the United States, and you're not even going to get in the lottery, and then it's still a lottery. There's still only so many things. So even if you did qualify in every way, you're just paying your $160 for nothing. And that's a lot of money for people down here. $160 is, 2 weeks' work, or it could be, almost, not quite. But so we don't even have a legitimate system for letting people into the United States legally. And I'm not saying that it ought to be just let everybody in. I mean, we should have standards, yes. And if people come in and overstay their visa, then we should definitely enforce those standards and kick people out. But by being so unfriendly with the people who are trying to do it the legal way, we push people to do it the illegal way. And there shouldn't be any surprise about that. But that's just one factor, okay? The next factor is the fact that we are not just punishing people who want to do it legally, we are rewarding people who do it illegally. When somebody comes here illegally, you've heard me talk about this a lot, there are all manner of programs that they can immediately take advantage of, from free education for their kids to free health care to all kind free food, to just plain cash given to them. Now New York is talking about giving $1,000 a month per migrant to every migrant that comes in. Do you understand You're talking about people that many of these people are coming from a place where $5 a day is a wage, a normal wage for workers in their country. $1,000 a month is like winning the lottery every month for these people, because in their mind, because what they don't understand is how truly expensive it is to live in the United States. And they're not paying taxes on that $1,000, so they're not getting that. They're not feeling the bite of the taxes. No, that's the United States procedure to get into the U.S. with a visa, not Panama. It's not Panama doesn't care. It's the United States that is making those rules, that bar so high, and it's not even a fair bar. It's not like you can strive and save up some money and get some property and get a job and do all the things right, and then easily, take all that in and boom, you got your visa. It's just a lottery system. And so even if you do all the things right, you're very likely not going to get you're still not going to get your visa. But again, so then when people go, well, heck with it then, I'm coming in illegally, they just go to Mexico and jump the fence, easy. And if they even get picked up by the government, which many people now, at least probably half of the people that come in now are not even getting picked up. They're just walking right in and they're in. But they can, if they hurt themselves, they go to the hospital. They don't have to show any ID. They don't have to show anything. They can get treated. And if they don't pay their bill, it's on the taxpayer. They can bring their kids and put their kids in school, and we have to take them. They can sign up for SNAP benefits, which is supplemental nutrition benefits, which gives them a debit card that they can use to buy food with. They can sign up for these state programs like the one New York is thinking about. And what they'll do is they'll sign up for multiple programs in multiple states. So they might sign up for a program like that in New Jersey, and another one in New York, and another one in Massachusetts. And they'll just pretend to be in all of those three places and figure out how to game the system and get twice or three times or five times as much as they're meant to get under these programs. And as far as they're concerned, hey, if you're handing out cookies, don't blame me for getting in line. Or a presidential candidate is in charge along with all of the souls behind it. That's not a question. So that's another pull factor. SNAP has federal tracking capabilities, technically EBT cards. Yes, exactly. There are more pull factors, and that is that there are NGOs and churches who are assisting these migrants once they get here and before they get here along the way. So you've heard me reporting about this over the last couple of weeks, that $1.6 billion that will be spent this year alone by NGOs and charities who are getting their money from the U.S. taxpayer. They're funded by the United States government. And they take that money and they use it to set up shelters along the pipeline coming in. So there's shelters in Colombia, there's shelters in Ecuador, there's shelters in Mexico, there's shelters, all over the place. They're putting these shelters up and giving the migrants a place to stay on their journey, because these migrants typically don't have money to come in, to pay for the travel themselves. And so they also are assisting the migrants by giving them food and giving them medical care. On the way up, a lot of what they're giving these migrants is just cash, literally, envelopes full of cash or EBT cards that they can use for whatever they want. They can use it for bus fare. They can use it for weed. I mean, they can use it for whatever they want. And we've proven this all along the way. The International Organization for Migration is doing it, UNHCR, and the one Michael Yan was talking about, the Hebrew Immigrant Assistance, something like that, HIAS, and they're website is really full of disgusting woke propaganda about how we're assisting the LBGTQ people who are being persecuted to get to the United States. And these are the same people who say the United States is persecuting LGBTQ people. So I don't know why they would want to let these trans or gay people come to the U.S. But I mean, I really don't care, about your sexual orientation. I just care about you stealing my money. So if we wanted to stop illegal migration, there's an easy way to do it. We just have to stop. We have to get rid of the pull factors. The push factors will always be there, but we have to get rid of the pull factors that make people want to come to the United States. So we have to put laws on the books that will make it illegal to give money to organizations who will use that money to assist illegal migrants on their journey. And is that a question? Okay, if you don't have a question, please don't put it in all caps because then I'll think it's a question. I do go back and read through the comments after the live is over, so we'll see your comments. But if you're putting it in all caps, then I think it's a question, and that breaks our system here. Okay, but we should make it illegal to give people money from the U.S. Treasury before they get to the United States, or before they are at least residents of the United States. Thank you, Ask Yeshka. I saw your comment and did not understand it at all. I'm sorry about that. I saw it on the CBN one, and it didn't make any sense to me. So maybe you could clarify by sending me an email, hotzoneholton@gmail.com, and I'll look at it. So what are your thoughts on the World Economic Forum? Well, the World Economic Forum has a definite plan, and that plan is synonymous with communism, socialism, global socialism. And so they are doing whatever they can, including fostering crisis around the world in order to bring about a socialist utopia, global socialist utopia. That's not conspiracy theory. That comes straight from their own documents. All you have to do is go read what they say about what they want the world to look like. And they don't put it in so many words, but what they're truly saying is they want a global socialist utopia. And so that's why we're very hostile to the World Economic Forum. Isn't all this expense just boosting the Democratic vote? Well, I think if you go back and listen to the video I put up on my Chuck Holton page, I put up a link to Brett Weinstein's interview with Tucker Carlson. He just came back from here. Many of you are sending me links to his interview. You need to understand that I was there on the trip helping to facilitate his trip to the Darien. So I didn't share all that because it wasn't my job to tell you who was there on the trip. It was his, that's his option. But I was there with Brett Weinstein in the Darien Gap and assisting him on his trip. But if you go to chuckholton.com, you can see his interview, which is very good. And he says something that he puts it in a different way than I put it before. And that is that this is a migration and an invasion simultaneously. And that the invasion is you taking advantage of the migration to invade and make it look like it's not an invasion, okay? Can we go and stop the cartel? Well, I'll get to that in a minute. So step one, let's stop allowing the U.S. government to pay the migrants to come. Because obviously, if you're offering them money to come here, they're going to come. It's not compassionate to do that. Because it's not compassionate to rob from one person in order to give to somebody else. And neither is it compassionate to assist somebody in breaking the law. You've heard me say that over and over. That Brett Weinstein interview is very good, yes. And like I say, you don't need to send me the link because I was there. I helped him with that. How do I watch your show on Newsmax? I don't have a show on Newsmax. I just report on Newsmax from time to time, George, whenever they ask me to, and it's usually same day, so I can't tell you there's a schedule or anything. I don't have a schedule with them. It just depends on what I'm doing and what they want. I may at some point have a show there, but I don't have a show there now. So if we stop the U.S. government from paying the migrants to come, that'd be a very big help to stopping this illegal migration. Number two, we should put measures in place that make it punitive for them when they do come illegally. Meaning, if you get caught here and you are an illegal migrant, you should immediately be taken to a camp and scheduled for deportation. Because if you come here and you don't register as an asylee, like if you're a Godaway, for example, you don't get to make that asylum claim after the fact, after you get stopped for speeding, after you run somebody over, after you get arrested for having illegal drugs. If you get caught here, first of all, we should empower all police, all law enforcement to check to see if somebody is here illegally. And if they are here illegally and they're not registered with the U.S. government, then that's an easy one right there. You go to a camp, you're scheduled for deportation immediately, and you can never get asylum here ever again. We can add to that by reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy for the people who do want to claim asylum, because we have a multi-year wait right now for an asylum hearing. We just do what Donald Trump did and force people to remain in Mexico or their home country until they have an asylum hearing scheduled. And then they can come to the U.S. for their asylum hearing if they want, or do it remotely. They don't even have to come to the United States. And so that way, if they do not get asylum, they're not allowed in. And they would have two choices. They can apply for the legal method, or they can jump the fence, get caught, and get deported, and you can never come back. Please hit the like button, folks. There's only 400 likes on there. That's sad. And subscribe while you're at it. That's good. That helps. So we can reinstitute the Remain in Mexico policy. We can. I'm going to get to that. I can't read your name. Sorry. About marching on Washington, D.C. We can finish building the wall to make it more of it. Really, in the greater scheme of things, would be very inexpensive for us to finish building the wall that Trump started, in order to make it much more difficult for massive numbers of people to come through. Now, the reason that people are coming through the wall now, or they're actually cutting the wall down, is because it's not being enforced at all. Just because you build a wall doesn't mean that makes it impossible for people to come over or to get in. They can still go over, under, or through, but it makes it more costly and time-consuming, and is much more of a hassle for them to do that. Anything you do to make it more difficult means less people come. The overall numbers of people coming will diminish if we finish the wall. That's all. Do you think somebody has a question here. Dang it. I lost it. It goes so fast. Question. Dang it. March on Washington, D.C. I already answered that. Maybe Connie deleted it. Maybe it wasn't a good question. Sorry, if you have a question there and I missed it, I'm sorry. I saw it go by and it disappeared. So we can also put pressure on countries like Ecuador and Nicaragua. We could put sanctions on them. We could do things like that to encourage them to look. I don't care if you have a lax visa policy. That's fine. It's your country. You do what you want. But if people are coming through specifically, and it's obvious that they're specifically coming. A question about the illegals attacking NYPD. I'll talk about that in a minute. we could put pressure on them to at least vet the people that are coming in. And if they're obviously coming to live in the Western Hemisphere, then they could make it more difficult for those people to come and not allow them in. With Panama, we could come to Panama and we could offer to assist Panama in shutting down the Darien Gap. They could do it. They can't put a fence along their border or anything like that. It's far too wild out there. But there are choke points that they could man, and they could stop the migrants from coming north out of the Darien Gap. And Panama could just say, if you come into our country illegally, you will stay in the Darien for at least a year. Something along those lines, in a nasty camp that you're not going to like. And if they did that, when they did that during COVID, it stopped. It absolutely stopped. Nobody was coming through the Darien during COVID, because Panama said if you come through during COVID, then you're going to have to stay in the Darien until COVID is over. I think the wall is to keep immigrants out. That's kind of a ridiculous question. It's not, that wall is not there to keep Americans in. Americans can leave the country, thank you, dear, anytime they want, by a legal port of entry. The bridge being built along the Darien Gap is by China, correct? No, it's not by China. Panama is paying to build the bridge. China may have donated to assist Panama with various different projects, infrastructure projects. For example, China is helping Panama build its metro. China is helping Panama build one of the bridges that they're building across the canal. And since money is fungible, that means that Panama then has money that they can use to build the bridge. So in that way, you could say that China is indirectly helping to fund Panama in order for Panama to build more stuff. And so the thing about that bridge is it's not in a place that would make it easy for more migrants to come in, because the way that the bridge is positioned, migrants would actually have to go further to get to that bridge than they are right now just crossing the isthmus because of the location of the bridge. I think the bridge is much more likely to cause a giant increase in thank you. Cause a giant increase in logging, illegal and legal logging, farming and stuff like that, that results in cutting down the forest out there, which is not ultimately good for the Darien Gap. It's not ultimately good. It might be good in the short run economically for Panama. But it is kind of concerning because, or interesting, because that bridge is far larger. It appears to be massive. And so, once you open that Pandora's box and you clear the way into the Darien Gap, it can't be long until more roads go in and more villages go in and more people go in, and then the Darien becomes, much more populated than it is now, and stops being the buffer zone that it's meant to be between South America and North America. The United States has a program that they've had in place for more than 30 years here in Panama to seed roundworm. It's some kind of worm. I think it's a roundworm or a pinworm or something like that. Into the Darien Gap. What they do is they grow these worms in a laboratory and they irradiate them so that they can't reproduce, and then they go out and sprinkle them by air over the Darien Gap, and they mate with, or try to mate with, the female pinworms or whatever in the Darien Gap, and then they don't mate with a screwworm. That's it. It's a screwworm, right? And then they don't. Those female worms don't mate. Gosh, there's a bug that's bothering me. Don't mate with a potent screwworm, and keeps the somehow keeps the hoof and mouth disease that they have in South America from making its way into Central and North America. And because the Darien Gap is a choke point, it's actually worked for many years. They've been doing it for many years. But if they open up the Darien Gap, it makes it less likely that that will work. And they essentially already have a road going through the Darien Gap. It's just a pedestrian road that the migrants are taking. Worm warfare, right, there you go. Okay, so the various different ways that the United States and other countries in here are assisting the migrants is part of the pull factor, and we just need to eradicate those pull factors. We could actually make it more punitive on migrants by instituting a tax on remittances, the money that they send home back to the U.S. I mean, back from the U.S. to their home country. I wouldn't be really excited about that because I move a lot of money from the United States down here to Panama, and I'd probably get caught up in that and have to pay, tax on that. But and it's not that there wouldn't be some ways that the migrants would find to get around it, but it certainly is one more thing we could do to make it harder. Okay, you mentioned solutions, but how about we get our politicians on both sides to create the laws? Yeah, the laws are mostly in place already. They just choose not to enforce them. Is it true, have you heard that thousands more are on their way? Yes, there's 650,000 people in the pipeline. When I say pipeline, I mean from Ecuador all the way up to the United States that are making their way north to the U.S. 650,000. And they've done studies and polls of people in Central America, and they have found that more than 40% of people in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras say that they would go to the United States if given the opportunity, and that represents about 30 million people just right there. Okay, so that's not good. Congress enacts public laws affecting immigration and nationality. It would then be necessary to put pressure on members of Congress to change laws to eradicate the pull factors. That's what we need to do. We need to put pressure on our politicians to eradicate the pull factors. Now, somebody was asking, should we march on D.C.? I am of the opinion that marches and rallies very often do almost nothing to help one's cause, and in some ways damage one's cause because they rile people up, especially if you're doing it in the middle of the street and blocking the roads. It's one thing to raise awareness about something, and we can do that easily on social media by sharing this video, by sharing the videos that we see and sending things out on our social media. We can do that easily. Going and attending a rally might make it clear to the nation as a whole that this is an important issue, but our politicians, I don't think they're not making their decisions based on how many rallies have they had for this or that. I could be wrong about that. I mean, we look at what Black Lives Matter did. Black Lives Matter was literally, they weren't having rallies, they were burning down cities. And because they were burning down cities, the politicians who were already friendly to their cause made a whole lot about, supporting their cause, trying to get people to calm down. But like I say, those were politicians who supported that already, would have voted that way already. To change people's votes, we've got to hurt the politicians. And to hurt the politicians, there are only two ways I know of to do that, and that is burn up their phone lines, and homeschoolers are very good at that, and hit them in the pocketbook. So boycotting people who are supporting, companies who are supporting certain things is very effective. The Bud Light issue that we had earlier, or last year, where Bud Light almost, put itself into bankruptcy because of some stupid things that they did that alienated their core demographic. That was a great lesson in how voting with your pocketbook can very, very much make a difference politically. So how do we do that? Well, if you support certain NGOs, you need to do some research and find out whether those NGOs, like say Samaritan's Purse or the Red Cross or somebody like that, find out if they are supporting illegal migration. So there are lots of agencies out there, like the Red Cross, that you might find are not on your not supporting the things that you support, and are actually supporting things that you abhor. Catholic Charities is one, things like that, and so it bears looking into them before you give them money. Now I can tell you that Operation Blessing intentionally does not do anything with migration for the very reason, thank you, MM, very kind, for the very reason that they don't want to support illegals doing illegal things. Samaritan's Purse, for the same reason, does not support illegal immigration. Thank you, Ask Yeska, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I will go look at that afterwards. Question, illegals beating up cops. BLM burning cities, no problem. January 6 prisoners rotting in jail. How do we fix this? You got to vote those people out. Make yourself heard at the ballot box. Make yourself heard on the phones, calling your representatives. I don't know that I've got a lot of faith anymore in the ballot box. I hate to say that, but I've just seen far too much like bona fide voter fraud my time as a journalist. And so I don't put a lot of stock in voting at the ballot box anymore. But I can tell you that when 10,000 people call and scream at the people at the representative's office, the representative does get the message. When people start calling corporations and charities that are supporting illegal migration or supporting the politicians who support illegal migration and let them know that I'm not spending my money with you anymore, that message trickles down or trickles up as the case may be. Okay? So the reason I say that is because there's a whole lot of Jews who have been supporting this Hebrew Immigrant Assistance Service, or what HIAS, probably because of what they are doing in Israel right now. But at the same time, they are supporting illegal migration massively. Like really are, they're here in Panama. They are supporting illegal migrants. And they see it as a compassionate thing to do, but I'm telling you, it's not a compassionate thing to do. That's a lie, and we should also be putting pressure on our politicians to make it to make a clear, fair, meritorious process for entering the United States. My daughter-in-law is from Armenia. She's Armenian, and she married my son, but she's not an American citizen, and she doesn't have a visa. She didn't have a visa to come to the United States. So we were trying to get her a visa to come to the U.S., and it was ridiculous, the process to go through to do that. And even just to get a tourist visa was just like so difficult. And she had friends who were pregnant, and they just disappeared from her school one day, and the next thing she saw was on their Facebook, they're in Texas. They had entered the United States illegally. They just flew to Mexico and entered illegally into the United States. Just like that. And now they're having their baby in the United States, and their baby will be an American citizen, just like that. Now, my daughter-in-law is pregnant. Her baby will be an American citizen because her husband is American, but she won't be American. And for her to come visit us or have Christmas with us in the United States was like pulling teeth. We finally got her a tourist visa just by the grace of God. She got a tourist visa because there was like a cancellation at the consulate, and she just got an immediate, uh, you know, um, got an immediate uh, appointment to get into the consulate. And when she got in there, she didn't have, aside from the fact that she was engaged to my son at the time, she didn't have anything. She didn't have any money. She didn't have uh, you know, a job to speak of. She, it didn't have all the things that she needed. And it was really just a God thing that she got her tourist visa. They were turning a lot of people away. They were giving visas out to people who would otherwise have come in illegally, like Russians and things like that, people that that probably shouldn't have a visa to the United States. They're at the consulate in Yerevan. But we were very frustrated for a time while we were trying to work that out, because it's like I could so easily just fly little Rubina to Mexico and drive her up to the border and let her walk across the border, and then have one of our family members pick her up on the other side, and she'd be in. And, like, what is the deterrent to that? There isn't any. They're not going to grab her and throw her in jail. They're not going to likely even deport her or anything like that. They're probably just going to leave her alone if she were to cross illegally. Now, thank God we were able to do it legally. And again, it was a real God thing. It was an answer to prayer, and it should not have happened. I mean, there's no way that she should have gotten but again, it's kind of a lottery, and she won the lottery. I heard a comment a few days ago. They said they think Biden let them in, hoping they would vote for him in return. I laughed because they don't get to vote, right? Well, Katie Sue, I've talked about that a couple times in the past. There is one way that illegals can vote, but the vote that they can participate in only comes every 10 years. It's called the U.S. Census. The census uses the number of bodies, not the number of citizens, the number of people, total, just absolute people, uses that in the census to determine how to allocate the congressional 435 seats in the U.S. Congress. And it's called apportionment. And so if they can get a bunch of migrants to come in and go to sanctuary cities that are democratically controlled, then when they do the apportionment process after the census takes place, then those democratic cities will get more representatives in the U.S. Congress. And I was told by the Center for Immigration Studies that they did reapportion 4 seats in the last congressional, after the last census, 4 seats to Democratic jurisdictions that otherwise would have gone to Republican jurisdictions because of the number of people that they crammed into their cities. And now, as you notice, those same Democratic cities are trying to get rid of the migrants that they have, and they're complaining about the migrants that are coming, and they're so expensive and we can't afford it and blah, blah, blah. They weren't doing that before the census because they wanted those people there for the apportionment issue. Now, you're right in that they can't vote in the actual, they can't vote legally in the actual election, although many have tried all over the country, and some have been successful at that. Not enough to really matter. But now that they're here, thank you, Askishuka. Now that they're here, they can start on, the Democrats can start on a process whereby they can give amnesty to these people and let them get citizenship eventually and vote. This is a long-term process. It's a long-term plan. And it may take 10 years, but if they can get all those people to vote for them, then yeah, 2,000 Mules is a great video to go watch if you want to see how that they can vote illegally. And it did happen. It did happen. Go to the Minneapolis was a mess. But their long-term goal is, yes, to get these people, to flood them, the areas with people who are more likely to vote for them. Like I said, the it's the country or the government voting itself a new people rather than people voting itself a new government. But that'll take a generation. That'll take a long time to do. It's the apportionment issue that's more immediate. And now that we've got 6 years until the next the next apportionment, the next census. Thank you, Nanette. That's very kind. I appreciate all of these donations. We're going to use these as best we can to help people around the globe. I really appreciate those of you who watched, who came up to me for what we're doing, and even some people handed me cash and said, give this to the girls that you're supporting in Colombia. So that was very kind. I very, very much appreciate that. And we will use that to help the people in Colombia for sure. So Mark Smith needs to go. Although I won't disagree that Jesus is not on my side. I'm not trying to get Jesus on my side. I'm trying to get on Jesus' side. And that's what I think all of us should be doing. So if you're wondering about the girls in Colombia, they are doing better. We still have these couple of moms who are in jail, but their hearing is coming up the 9th of February. If you want to pray for them, you want to pray for these little single Venezuelan mothers that we're supporting in Colombia. Pray for them on February 9th, because that is when they get their hearing, and hopefully they will get out of jail and be able to go back to their families. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time and got picked up in a crackdown on child sex trafficking, which is not what they were doing. But anyway, thank you for praying for them. That's the most you can do. And the donations help as well. So that's February 9th. Now, I wanted to mention also, we have this preparedness seminar that's going on at Maple Fork Lodge on it's the second week of May. And this is a training weekend, basically. We're bringing in literally some of the best trainers on the planet for firearms, keeping your family safe, facility security, so keeping your house, hardening your house, making it harder for criminals and bad people to penetrate your defenses, and preparation and medical stuff. And this is not an online seminar. We won't be broadcasting it. It's Tim Miller and several instructors who are literally among the best in the world. And they don't come cheap, and that's why the seminar is not cheap. But it's going to be worth it. And if you really want to go from being like, I'm good at shooting on the range, but I want to get good at protecting myself, in the world, this is the seminar for you. You definitely want to go to this. It's a tactical preparedness training seminar. And it's at Maple Fork Lodge, second week of May. If you're interested, maybe my wife can put the link up in the comments here, but I will just ask you to send me an email, hotzoneholton@gmail.com, and I will send you back a link that you can learn more about the weekend. Again, Tim Miller and company are the best there is. And it's not just because he's a longtime friend of mine. He literally, if you look at his resume, you'll be blown away at the things that this guy has, the training that this guy has received throughout his career. Former Secret Service, former federal agent, former FBI liaison to the White House, just the stuff, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, their top instructors. We're talking about very, very high level training. So it's advanced training, not beginner training. But if you really want to get some training like that and learn how to make your house safer and more prepared for whatever comes, I highly recommend it. So thank you very much. Now, somebody had asked, and I said I would address it on this live. Somebody had asked on the CBN Live today, about gun laws here in Panama. I'll just put it this way. Getting a gun in Panama is easier than it is in New York or Massachusetts or Maryland, and harder than it is in West Virginia, Nevada, or Florida. You have to jump through a few hoops to get a gun here in Panama. You've got to get a background check and an eye exam and take a skills test on the range to show you know how to use your weapon. You've got to turn the weapon in and have it get ballistically fingerprinted, and so on and so forth to get your permit. It can take between a couple of months or much longer, depending on how quickly you can get all those things done. And then, you have to have a exam by a psychiatrist to make sure you're not crazy. That's another thing you have to do. Anyway, there's several things you have to do, and you get all your ducks in a row and turn all that stuff in. You could have your gun permit in a matter of a couple of months, or even faster by some people. Once you get your permit, it's good for, I think, 5 or 10 years, depending on if you're talking about the carry permit or the holding permit. There's 2 permits you get. One is to own the gun, and one is to carry the gun. You can carry it with you, and you can defend yourself with it if it need be. They have pretty good castle doctrine here in Panama. If somebody comes on your property without your permission, you may kill them, and they will do an investigation, but you probably won't go to jail or anything like that. It's maybe not as good as like Texas, but it's better than a lot of liberal places in the United States. You can't have like a sniper rifle or you can't have a can, unfortunately, a suppressor, which I don't like, but it is what it is. And you can, shoot your gun. There are not a lot of people in Panama who have a gun. The gun laws in Panama are very elitist because they're expensive. So guns are expensive, and getting the stuff to get your gun is expensive. So the people who probably need a gun for protection the most are the least able to have one. But if you can go through the process and get one down here, then you can also be sure that probably you're the only person in your neighborhood, on your block, who's got one. There are not a lot of guns floating around Panama for that reason. Okay, so let's see. Any other questions, real quick? How may we speak? Well, if you want to retire in Panama, you can go to my link tree. If Connie would put the link tree up, it's just linktr.ee/Holton. Linktree/Holton. And there's a dot in there. And you can get the link to a whole live that I did, a video I did on why I moved to Panama. So if you want to know things about moving to Panama, you can click on the link tree there, and one of the links in there is why I moved to Panama. I also wrote an article about it, which you can find on chuckholton.com, just called Why I Expatriated to Panama. And I wrote a whole long article about our reasoning for doing so. If you have specific questions and you want to email me, you can email me, hotzoneholton@gmail.com. I'm getting tons of emails. If I don't answer you, it's because I didn't have a good answer for you, or I didn't know what to say. Some people, I don't know. I mean, I get people that send me some weird stuff that I just like, I don't know what to do with this. I actually had to ask one guy recently, could you please just email me stuff that's relevant or, pertinent to our discussion, or, he was just sending me a link, like every video he watched all day long, every article he looked at all day long, I was getting in my inbox. It got to the point like, dude, I don't have time to read all this stuff. So please be respectful if you're going to email. And if not, I just won't answer you. You can email me, and I do read them all. I will try to get back to you if you have a specific question about moving to Panama. Do you know if laws concerning issues of human trafficking and cartels relating to the U.S. border are also dealt with through Congress? Yes, they are. that Congress deals with the laws. Somebody asked about whether or not we could go hard against the cartels. Yes, we could, and yes, we should. That's one other way that we could easily reduce the flow of illegal immigration into the United States would be to go after the cartels. And I mean, even going after them kinetically, sending special forces to make raids inside Mexico, and or even dropping JDAMs on cartel facilities inside Mexico. Now, there's no politician in the United States right now who has the guts to do that. At least not enough, certainly not the ones who control the Pentagon. How thick is my passport? It's about that thick. I have to get a new passport quite often. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, is that it's frustrating for people like me who have to get a new passport, because they've taken a whole bunch of the people who used to process passports for Americans who were trying to get a passport, and they've moved them over to have them process asylum claims for illegal people. And that means that last year I was stuck in the United States for about 6 weeks waiting for my new passport. Now, look, if you're going to require that I get a little piece of paper in order to be able to travel freely, to exercise my God-given human right to move around and just go places, then you ought to at least process my request for that in short order. It shouldn't take 6 weeks. If it takes a week, there ought to be a way for me to get it faster than that. And there just isn't. I was expediting my passport. I was calling them. I was and it still took 6 weeks. And that's just too much. Okay, will spring break be canceled for that crowd? I'm not sure what crowd you're talking about. Could Connie share the first names of the mothers in Colombia that we can pray for? There's Wendy. There's Alessandra. There's Emily is the new little mother that just had the new little baby. And there's Olga. And there's one more that I forget right off the top of my head. But yes, you can. So there you go. There's the names of those girls. Let's see if there's any other questions here. No, there's not. Okay. Well, we are just over an hour, so that's it. That's all I've got for today. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you do care about the illegals who are flooding into our country, then I've given you hopefully some ideas in this video about what you can do about it. And call your Congress critters, burn up their phone lines, get to the ballot box. Whether or not it's effective remains to be seen, and pressure those companies and NGOs who are facilitating the migration. They really are the smugglers. And so that's hopefully some things you can do. They are using biometrics as a passport, Chuck, already. As Chuck says, have you heard about them using biometrics as a passport? That's already happening. When I came into the United States, when was that? Like 4 days ago, when I entered Houston, I never took my passport out of its bag. I walked in, I got off the plane, I walked downstairs, I went into the line. There's a kiosk there. I looked at the kiosk, and in half a second it went bleep and said, please continue. And I just walked over to the agent, and the agent called my name before I even got there and said, Mr. Holton, this way. And I said, okay. And I walked over there, and he said, you have anything to declare? And I said, no. And he said, have a good one. Never showed him my passport, never stamped my passport, nothing. When I went to get on the plane yesterday to come back home to Panama, I didn't show my boarding pass. I walked up to the gate, and bloop, the little kiosk said, please continue. And I walked right through. I never even showed my boarding pass at all. So that's the way things work nowadays, all over the world. They're using biometrics to, that is your passport at this point. But you still have to have the piece of paper, and that still takes 6 weeks. I already had a face. If they would have let me just use my face, That would have been great, but unfortunately, you still have to have that piece of paper. All right. Thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. God bless you. I'm going to go get ready and go spend some time with my wife and get ready to take her out to dinner. So we'll have a good